Nobody could have predicted the level of wickedness these three teens were capable of at such a young age. They shocked the world with their heinous actions, and they might never see the light of day again. In this video, we explore the disturbing cases of three teenage criminals who committed unimaginable crimes and were convicted for their crimes. So, let's get started. Case number 1, Jasmine, April 23, 2006. Aptly named, that day could be called a mournful Sunday. That was when the heartbreaking news spread of the unfathomable tragedy that took place in the basement of a modest split-level home. As reported by CBC, the victims were Mark Richardson, a young 42-year-old, and his beloved wife Deborah, who was just 48. It was a scene right out of a horror movie. Both of them had suffered savage attacks. Mark had been brutally stabbed 24 times, while Deborah had taken 12 blows herself. But the horror didn't end there. As if fate hadn't dealt enough of a harsh hand already, their innocent 8-year-old son Tyler was found lifeless in his upstairs bedroom. His jugular vein had been ruthlessly severed, and his chest and face bore the disturbing marks of numerous stab wounds as detailed by the outlet. However, the narrative took an unexpected and chilling turn, leaving everyone dumbfounded. The next day in Saskatchewan, 2 suspects were taken into custody. It was none other than the couple's own 12-year-old daughter Jasmine and her boyfriend Jeremy Steinke, a 23-year-old high school dropout. Canada's Youth Criminal Justice Act prohibits revealing Jasmine's name. She was just a child herself, making the news even more devastating. Their arrests for the horrifying killings shocked everyone, making us question how such a tragedy could occur in the first place. Authority figures have reason to believe that Jasmine masterminded a shocking plot of murder due to her parents' disapproval of her relationship with Steinke, who was a good 11 years older than her. After all, it's often said that the heart wants what the heart wants. Allegedly, Jasmine confided her dark plan via email to Steinke. This wasn't your everyday man, but a man who claimed to be a 300-year-old werewolf, sporting a small bottle of blood as an accessory around his neck. The twist is that she met this enigmatic character at a punk rock party earlier that same year. And you won't believe that during the courtroom proceedings, the prosecution subtly suggested that the horrifying acts of homicide might have stemmed from Steinke's fascination with his much-loved film, Natural Born Killers. A masterpiece directed by Oliver Stone, the movie illustrates the chilling tale of a couple with a dreadful knack for killing. Their spree of terror begins with the murder of the woman's parents. Just imagine a 12-year-old young Jasmine was pronounced guilty on not 1, not 2, but 3 counts of first-degree murder. It took the jury 3 hours in court to reach this shocking verdict. This made Jasmine, believe it or not, the youngest individual in the entirety of Canada to carry the heavy burden of being a multiple first-degree murder convict. In 2007, she was handed a sentence of 10 memorable years in intensive rehabilitative custody and supervision. The maximum sentence can be given to youth offenders aged between 12 and 14 years old. As the calendar flipped to the next year, when Steinke, who chose to rebrand himself as Jackson May, served with a life sentence. The rulebook stated he would be eligible for parole only after serving 25 long, hard years behind bars. Case number 2, Aaron Schmidt. Let's take a moment to dig into the story of Aaron Schmidt, a teenager facing the stark reality of life imprisonment without an option for a second chance. His crime was the tragic and brutal murder of his 40-year-old neighbor, Elena Callahan. Now imagine this. If somehow Aaron managed to outlive his life sentence, he wouldn't be breathing a sigh of freedom just yet. There's an additional 5-year sentence riding on his coattails. This sentence will kick into effect, running consecutively, only after any other sentencing he might incur in the future has been served, specifically for a possession charge.
Every murder case that I've tried, I'm sure there's some cases where there's nobody out there and they don't have survivors, but in every case that I've ever tried, there have been. And there are people that mourn that loss. There are people whose quality of life and their ability to enjoy life is going to be somehow diminished, and that'll be something that'll be with you forever. The person that should have been there when there's wonderful things happening is not there.
A further 10-year sentence looms over him for theft. And you've guessed it right, this will only begin after all his other sentences have been completed. Well, you know what they say? Every cloud has a silver lining, even in the legal world. After the initial sentencing, an appeal was made to the Georgia Supreme Court. This wasn't just a random, spur-of-the-moment decision, but rather stemmed from the widespread belief among the public that the punishment meted out was extreme and unusual, to say the least. But here's a twist. The judge wasn't swayed by these arguments. Quite the contrary, he dismissed them with an air of unequivocal certainty. He made it absolutely clear that, in his eyes, the evidence was more than enough to establish Sherman's guilt beyond any shred of doubt. You might find this hard to swallow, but trust us, the judge stood firm in his stance. According to him, the punishment wasn't just appropriate. It perfectly matched the severity of the crimes committed. This just goes to show, as folks often say, that the law is the law and that it does not bend to public sentiment. Crime and punishment, as they say, go hand in hand. Case number 3, Taylor Elena Gwaltney. Next we have Taylor Gwaltney. He was just 19 when he took a life, not in self-defense, but intentionally. And to add salt to the wound, he openly bragged about his heinous deed. This tragic event happened in Colorado Springs, where an unsuspecting 55-year-old homeless man named Doyle became the victim of this heinous crime. Doyle was brutally attacked with a baseball bat, a scene that sends shivers down anyone's spine. The poor man didn't stand a chance against the teenager's aggression. He was found dead the following morning, only partially covered by the very sleeping bag he used for warmth on cold nights. The coroner's report revealed the brutal extent of his injuries. Multiple blows to the head. A 7-man and 5-woman jury listened with growing horror as the details of the crime were unfurled in the courtroom. It took them only 2 hours to reach a verdict. Can you believe that? Just 2 hours to decide the fate of a man who didn't hesitate while sharing his crime's shameful details. Gwaltney's trial lasted 3 weeks, an enduring and grueling journey for all involved. The silver lining is that justice was served. The young man was sentenced to spend a lifetime behind bars. And guess what? He showed no remorse over the incident. Furthermore, he even crowed about his horrific deed to around 16 people. The audacity! But he's now exactly where he should be, living out the remainder of his days within the confines of a prison cell. As parents, we often worry about our children's well-being and hope that they will grow up to be kind, responsible adults. However, there are some teens who defy all expectations and commit. These 3 evil teens fall into that category and should never see the light of day again. They have proven to be a danger to society and should never be allowed back onto the streets. So what do you think? Is teenage just an era of senseless decisions involving no pure intentions? Or do these teens deserve to be condemned? Let us know in the comments below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more.